Hello. Hey. Hello. Hi. Welcome to 50 Years Dead. This is Cosmic Charlie Marks. And this is the inaugural episode of 50 Years Dead, where we explore the 1973 tour by the greatest American rock group of all time, the Grateful Dead. The concept of the show is connecting philosophy, history, music history, personal history with the Grateful Dead. I want to do a podcast simply because of nobody to talk to about the Grateful Dead, which is crazy because the fan base is so robust. But I feel like you sort of may not get it the way that some of us get it. The Grateful Dead, you just click. It just clicks on people. It's a light switch in your head when you become a true Grateful Dead fan. And for me, I started the journey 2012, 2013. I was working in New York City for a production company. I would listen to music all the time on my headphones while I would do whatever stupid work I had to do. And I would listen to music, but I would get into whatever I was listening to all the time. So it would be, my regular bands that I love, Wilco or Pearl Jam or, Neutral Milk Hotel, Pavement, a lot of bands from the 90s, a lot of bands that came out 10 years before I was really old enough to appreciate them. And I would be doing my work, and I would be listening to, say, a Wilco track, and I would be really concentrating on the music, and really oh shit, I'm not actually working. I'm thinking about this song. So I'm like, all right, I gotta put something else on that I won't think about. Put on classical. Classical is very intense if you listen to it. There's a lot that reminds me of the Grateful Dead in that way. But at the time, I was listening to classical, and I was listening to Beethoven, and he can get heavy. And he can get interesting. So my mind started wandering again. So I put on jazz. That was tough. Jazz, as a Grateful Dead fan will know, a lot of things are working at the same time. And when you piece it together in your head, it could be quite distracting at work. So I went through a lot of bands. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put the Grateful Dead on. I'll put on one of these long jams that they do, and I'll just zone out. And I did that, and it worked for a week. And all of a sudden, I started just humming songs to myself when I wasn't listening to music. I'll be on the subway or in the shower, and Don't Murder Me would just play over and over again in my head. So I started listening to them more, and then that started distracting me from work. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm just a bad employee, because I'm going to stick with the Grateful Dead, because this music is pretty interesting. I am
sorrow. I have seen trouble.
The first record I got into was actually the Pizza Tapes. I wonder if anybody else got into the Grateful Dead from that. The Pizza Tapes were very interesting, and there's something about the Pizza Tapes where you really start to feel the intimacy of Jerry. I think the recording was in the early 90s, possibly very late 80s, maybe 89, 90. But Jerry's so interesting because people have that sense of intimacy with him. And he starts speaking for people. And when in the Pizza Tapes, you really feel like he's in the room with you, which makes it so interesting. I became obsessed with it. I play it all the time. I grew up listening to Bob Dylan and what's that movie called? Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Oh, what a soundtrack. And it reminded me of it. And it got me into wanting to know more about him.
No pleasure here on earth.
So my cousin, Anthony, got me into a show. He gave me my first Grateful Dead show. It was Pembroke, Florida, at the Spring 77 tour. That's what popped the Grateful Dead cherry, as I read on Reddit, as you call it. Got hooked on 77, particularly the show. But I never explored a full tour. It was mostly just playing 77 over and over again, particularly Pembroke. I wanted to explore 73 because 77 brought me to 72, which brought me to 69. And I love 69. Has a different feel to it than 77. It's only 8 years difference, 7 years difference. But it feels like a different band, which makes this group so cool. Over the 10 or 11 years that I've discovered this band, I found that you discover it in pockets. There's always something that surprises you, something that you feel that's different. I think the turning point that makes you into a Grateful Dead fan or a true Deadhead is immersing yourself with the song Dark Star. Dark Star reveals who the Grateful Dead are. That aforementioned 77 show is excellent because you can listen to it at a party, you can listen to it on a road trip with other people. But it doesn't have Dark Star. When you start listening to Dark Star by yourself on a walk at night with the dog, or in your basement with the lights off, you start to pick up on things and start to realize what this band is. What I like about the 73 tour is we're seeing a lot of Dark Stars, which then you start seeing parallels to other jams, like Playing with the Band. The jam in Dark Star is similar to the jam in Playing with the Band, but you don't think about that when you listen to Playing with the Band as a song, because it's such a easy rocker. It's quintessential easy rocker that turns into a Dark Star. But if you listen to enough Dark Stars and you listen to enough Playing with the Bands, you realize these are the moments that make the Grateful Dead the Grateful Dead. So, 1973. What makes the 1973 tour different is that there's no Pigpen, no organ, no grizzly singer, with Pigpen sadly gone. The set list changes dramatically from 72 to away from the bluesy, rockabilly, little less psychedelic, but yet jazzy and reflective of the jazz of that era, particularly Miles Davis. Now, if you listen to a lot of the solos in these jams, you'll hear similar note playing with Miles Davis, and particularly the Bitches Brew sessions and the On the Corner sessions. The acid jazz at that time was popular. It was obviously in the zeitgeist for Jerry. The Grateful Dead is the greatest American rock group of all time. That should be undisputed. But what makes them great? Well, what makes a band great? I mean, you listen to Steely Dan, who have excellent tracks and really compelling songwriting. They were nowhere near as artistic as the Grateful Dead. They have this studio component that's just let's dive in deep, and the Grateful Dead have this live component where they find each other each and every night, where Steely Dan crafts and tinkers. So on the surface, you're like, okay, Dirty Work is probably a better song than anything that the Grateful Dead has made. And it's a ripping song. Dirty Work, the hook is just magnificent. But the Grateful Dead do something else. They go to another place. And you see that on the 73 tour.
On the day when I was born, Daddy sat down and cried.
Let's talk about 73 for just a bit. This is when this tour came out, Wake of the Flood was recorded. So Waking the Flood was released in October 15th, 1973. The 73 tour has all these songs on it. It has Mississippi, Half Step, Road Jimmy, Stella Blue, Here Comes Sunshine, Eyes of the World, and Weather Report. So when we're thinking about the beginning of this tour. The first show is on February 9th. They have a good amount of time before they release this. So the 73, they've earned enough trust with their audience where they can debut these songs with confidence before the audience has ever heard. Which, thinking about it, that's a perfect American story. Fuck it. Let's play it. Let's have people explore it here before they get to the record. So the album, when you might compare it to a Steely Dan album or a Led Zeppelin album or something else that came out in 73, Pink Floyd, it wasn't as popular, but there were some really rockin' songs on here and some songs that define the Grateful Dead for the rest of eternity, at least in terms of their tour. They were still playing Eyes as Dead & Co. right now. If you look at the tracking, let's look at the tracking list. We have Mississippi Half Step as the opener. Oh, first off, 7 tracks for this whole record. Weather Report being about 12:42. That's not a lot for a record. I don't know. Is that kind of like a half-ass, just come to the shows. Here's a record. I guess what they released before this was the 72 tour, which earned them a lot of money and sold a lot. And they're like, oh shit, let's put together a studio show or a studio recording, because just to sort of put it out there. But they don't put it out before the tour, and they don't have the tour support the record, where that is the case 99% of the time. They're just like, here's a record. Mississippi Half Step has a violin on the record. It's fantastic. I wish they brought a violin out on tour with them. It'd be interesting. Imagine if they did bring a violinist on tour and they just started jamming with them on all the other tracks. Imagine Mexicali Blues, Birdsong with a violin, Wharf Rat with a violin would be super interesting. But think about the decision not to bring a violin on tour is also a history-making statement, because every single tour and every single approach that they have is vastly different. Who knows, maybe a violin would have stuck, just like 2 drummers stuck. If the fiddle played on some of these honky-tonk tracks that they play live, how would it be different in 73? Road Jimmy, I have a love-hate relationship with. And I'm just skipping Let Me Sing Your Blues Away, a little cheeseball song. I don't know if they play this live very much beforehand. Could be one of those hey, I got a song I just crapped out. Let's put it second. The sequencing also weird for this record. When you know it in context of Let Me Sing Your Blues Away, sort of a bullshit song. But Road Jimmy, Stella Blue, just insane. Here Comes Sunshine, insane. Eyes of the World, yeah. Like, you know that one. For Road Jimmy, apparently no slide on the record, but it feels like a slide. The way he approaches this guitar work, he feels like he is playing with a slide. Which, like, is the internet right? Like, is he not playing a slide here? I'm not a guitar whiz. I'm actually not a whiz at anything. In fact, not even like the Grateful Dead. I'm not speaking of authority of the Grateful Dead. I'm simply speaking of like, hey, I just listened to a bunch of 73. I need to talk to somebody about it, so I'm gonna like throw it out there, and then hopefully have enough audio of my voice out so my daughter or granddaughter can upload it to the internet and then like make it like a robot version of me, just who's like talking about the Grateful Dead, but like we'll have a full-on conversation with them, you know, like the AI, like how that's like you're gonna upload your consciousness using all the audio that you have. So, like, your grandkids could talk to you. And imagine, like, my grandkid talking to me now and, like, asking me about advice and how I would, like, deal with a certain situation. And, like, the AI version of me is responding, but also, like, giving my right answer, but then also being like, the drums on Road Jimmy, like, are kind of weird, right? Granddad, what should I do when I just can't get something right and I have to work at it? And I said, well, there, grandchild, approach it like Bill approaches the drums on Road Jimmy. Like, just fucking play with it and see what happens. And it could be cool, or you could just sort of like get lost and throw everybody off. But either way, like, you're eating carbs. Stella Blue also sticks out to me as well. On this, it's interesting because there's backing vocals that really give strength to the lyrics and the emotion. It doesn't compare to the emotion that you get listening to the song live on headphones and just really hearing Jerry struggle through it. The backing vocals give it oomph on record, on the Wake of the Flood record, but like, I don't know. Feels a little Steely Danny. They started the tour. Let's get into the tour, right? Because I'm just sort of like blabbering on about the Grateful Dead, generally speaking, which like you just you'll get the vibe of it, but like the point of this is to really dive in and give an account on it. Stanford University is their first show. 2/9. It's February, but it's like California February, so I don't know. Was it warm out there or is it cold? Like, I don't know. I'm from New Jersey, so like I imagine there being a nice breeze. It's in Palo Alto, which was like in 73, if you're looking at history of where we're at and who's going to the show, which like I kind of want to give perspective, and what it means for the set list and what the band has been going through. Something I want to explore is like, where are the places that that they're playing? Who are they playing to, and how is that affecting the way they play? And if we can find patterns in why they're playing the way that they are. This is Silicon Valley. The foundations of Silicon Valley are being laid in the 50s and 60s here. 70s saw a boom in technology. This is at Stanford University, which is central to the identity of Palo Alto. Stanford continued being an influential institution in the 70s. The university played a key role in the Silicon Valley. So they basically are playing for like a bunch of like Bill Gates-esque type bros and ladies, but who were sort of thinking technically. It's a technical audience, I imagine. You know, a lot of people who are from the movement there who just have nothing to do with technology, obviously, just like deadheads going to see a show. But like, you have to think also the person in the study hall who was just like, oh shit, I'll go see the Grateful Dead. Like, yeah, let's do it. And thinking that there are a good amount of people like that at the show. It's the first show of the year for them, or at least of the tour. So, and you could tell they're trying to work on the sound a bit. At one point, Bob and Phil asked the audience about how it's sounding. And one of them says, there's a new sound machine. This could be them experimenting with elements of the Wall of Sound, which I believe they used officially in 74. And it's funny how I asked the audience that. He's asking a bunch of engineers how it's sounding. And there's some hiccups there, but there's something interesting about them working on technology and exploring it for the first time in this space in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley. Okay, so like the obvious big highlight of this show is that this is the very first time they played Eyes. And right out of the gates, they discovered it's a rocker. And, you know, when you listen to this Eyes, it sounds like almost the same as like the later tours. They didn't really need to like cook this up very much. Like, this is just a rocker. What's interesting about it, though, it makes it different from other tours, is that they segue a lot in this tour, and especially, you know, and it starts here in Palo Alto.
Sometimes we live no particular way but our own. Sometimes we visit your country and live in your home. Sometimes we ride on your horses.
What's interesting about this is that they play Eyes and they transition it into China Doll, which is a whole ton of emotions. Eyes is like the quintessential summer song. And it goes in the China Doll, which is a haunting song. We'll get into the lyrics maybe on a different show, but Jerry's voice in the first couple of verses of China Doll is like
pistol shot at 9 o'clock.
oh my god, what is going on? And the transition to that voice into that moment is such an interesting choice that I don't know if they make too much after this tour. I have to take a deep dive in the other ones, but Eyes the China Doll, does it happen very often? China China Doll's chorus is kind of weird though. he's come on, you gotta admit that. China Doll. I don't know if it's his voice, can't hit that note, and it's nice the whole band tries to help out, but the chorus is like not the best, and I feel like the song would have been better with a better chorus, but the verse is really powerful. The first thing that you're hearing from Jerry after a long upbeat jam and Eyes is this melancholy voice. Another good track, Deal really stuck out to me. There's a ton of energy in Deal. Donna's great in it. And like, by the way, like, Donna's great. Like, she's part of the Grateful Dead. Like, there's no, like, don't debate that. Don't get annoyed by it. Like, she's living in the moment, and she's singing in the moment, and she's singing like I sing in the car, but way better. But the point being, she's excited, and she's in that very instant. Her brain's not thinking about nerds who are gonna listen to this record on tape. She's thinking about nothing. She's thinking about the lyrics that she's talking about. And her voice in Deal, her backing vocals make the song. It's great. And then playing with the band, the woo-ah, oh, and like the different versions of that you'll hear throughout the whole 73 tour and beyond with playing with the band. She's the maestro there. She brings everybody back. And she's having fun. And that's what the Dead are about, like emotion and living in your emotion and in that moment. And especially now, you think about how far we've come from that, how we are obsessed with perfection, and how we're never in the moment. We're always looking at our phones. You go on the line for a food truck, and you see everybody's looking at their phone. Just like look around. It's a nice day in the city or wherever you're at. You're in the post office. Like, look around. Look at the characters who are in the post office. Think about what their lives are. Think about how this building got here. Look at your phone. You don't need to know the score of the Phillies are, or how the Phillies are doing, what the score is, or like what kind of trade the Sixers are proposing. I'm a Philadelphia sports fan, although I live in New York, in the New York area, live in northern New Jersey, but from Bucks County, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. So you'll get a lot of references there, but you know, even when you're like watching a game, even when I'm watching a game, I'm watching the Eagles game, I'm thinking like, it'll be September game, and I'll be thinking like, oh, will this play be made in the playoffs 6 months from now, 5 months from now? How will this win or how will this loss affect this if it's going south? When I should just be looking at the game, like living in the moment of watching your sports team. So it got worse, us living in the moment over time. And Donna brings us back. Donna reminds us, playing in the back. It brings you back. It centers you. It centers me. Live in the moment like Donna has. you put a great singer in there, and I'm not saying Donna's not great. I'm just saying a quote-unquote great singer. So you play Pink in there. Or Celine Dion. Or Whitney Houston. I don't know. I'm just like sort of making up female singers. But put anybody who's just like a classically trained vocalist in there. It's not the Grateful Dead. That's not the moment that it deserves. That's not the voice it deserves. Donna was the voice that moment in time called for. And if we could think like Donna in our regular lives, not be afraid of what we sound like, and not be afraid of how people will interpret us, and not be afraid of our own mind, that is a good life. That is ultimate mindfulness. I didn't like Donna at first either. I didn't like her voice. And to be honest, I didn't like Bobby either. I just sort of like, I'm half and half of Bobby now. But when you listen to the Jerry Garcia band and just hear Jerry and don't hear Bobby's backing vocals or a Bobby song mixed in, it feels different. I thought I will like the Jerry Garcia band better because it's just Jerry, and Jerry's my guy. But it's not better. There's something about it that's missing. It's missing Bobby. That being said, he does have some cheesy vocals. And I'll get there, because the Snow song, was it called? Let There Be Snow? No, Snow, not Snow, Rain. Rain's Gonna Come, Hard Rain. I'll get to it. That song is just, I don't know about that. Let's think about Palo Alto a little bit more. It's 73. Palo Alto has a strong connection with the evolution of political activity, counterculture. It's still all there. Obviously, being in a college, you're going to have more liberal-minded people who are thinking that there needs to be a change. And that's sort of what a Grateful Dead is. They're constantly changing, and that's what makes them so interesting. And that's what makes this experiment interesting, where I'm listening to every single show on this tour. It's like listening to an album over and over again, but every time you listen to it, it changes. It's that expression that you're hitting a moving target. And when you know what to look for, it feels fresh every time. This tour, I really fell in love with playing in the band. This particular version on 2.9. Great jazzy middle to playing in the band. As I said before, there's moments of acid jazz in this, in terms of chord progression and chord structure. Just the way Jerry plays is similar to the musicians at the time playing, a brass instrument, trumpet of Miles Davis. The noises coming out, the tempo, it all feels like it's in that world. A very energetic China Rider. The bass is particularly interesting on this show. Could also be the mix, but in this mix on the show, Phil's getting really, really creative during the the China Rider duo song. you hear the bass licks, it's interesting. It's sort of taking the lead at certain parts. I believe I listened to the Charlie Miller transfer on re-listen. Most of the stuff I've been listening to is Charlie Miller transfer. So yeah, there's this 2-9 show is very good, and it's interesting. And if you're a Deadhead, you want to listen to it because it demonstrates people figuring stuff out. The next show is 2/15. And if you're doing the math, that's February 15th, 1973. This one's at Dane County Coliseum in Madison, Wisconsin. So they're traveling. It takes them 6 days to travel midway across the country. Madison is the home of the Badgers, the University of Wisconsin. This is the early 70s. So, this is counterculture again on a college campus. Madison probably being the hotbed for counterculture in the Wisconsin area. So these are their people. So what's interesting about this show, just on a timing basis, it takes place 3 years after a bomb went off at the University of Wisconsin. A bomb went off at the Army Mathematics Research Center in Sterling Hall. It was planted there by radical anti-war activists and wound up killing somebody. So, yeah, they're in it. There's some thoughts going on in Madison at this time. So the Dead probably know this, what happened a couple years prior to this. I don't know if they played there before this happening or since this happening. But, you get some far out people are coming to this show. The music and art scene there is vibrant. Local bands came in through a tour there. The Majestic Theater was a big venue there. So they're playing to, a diverse group. So it makes sense for the Dead to play here. They're playing to their people. The Coliseum in the Dade County Coliseum is sort of like a hockey venue type place. So a lot of people can fit in there. Famous bands, sporting events, hockey games, wrestling, rodeos. So that's setting up, the concert itself. So if you're thinking about the playlist, this is a show that I fell in love with the song Loose Lucy. The playlist a lot on the tour. I didn't really know about the song too well, coming from the 77 sort of era as my bedrock for the Dead. The show starts with Looks Like Rain, which was the name of the song I was trying to think of. God, that song's fine. It's like a definition of a fine song. There is cool guitar work, but Bobby's singing, like, at the end, especially, it's like, Bobby, I don't know about this, bro. Like, Looks Like Rain. You know what's kind of cool is when they transition from Looks Like Rain to Box of Rain. They don't do it on this show, but... Oh, wait, they did it. They did do it on the show. That's a cool transition. That's clever. It's kind of like, all right, we'll play Looks Like Rain as long as we play Box of Rain after to, like, like, give Rain a better name. They have a lot of songs about rain. Rain paints a picture. When you talk about rain, we as humans have a weird relationship with rain. on a human level. We love the rain, but we also hate the rain. And we need the rain, but we don't need too much of the rain. We need like just amount of rain. So the idea of rain is the soul of what it means to be human. Sounds weird. It's a weird statement. But rain. People love it. People hate it. Depending on who you are. Too much of it makes us sad or causes floods. Wake of the flood. I'm not high right now. There's a lot of that wake of the flood. It's not a like rain thing, right? What is it about rain that this band goes back to? Singing in the rain is happy. It's fun being in the rain. It's also miserable because you get wet. Here's the thing. So I used to be like hating to get wet. And I always carried an umbrella, or like if my shoes got wet, it would ruin my day. But then I got wet one day and then I dried off. It sounds really heady, but it's sort of what happens. You go through life getting wet and then dry. And you kind of have to appreciate both. You don't appreciate one so you can appreciate the other. Like, the saying, like, it takes shit to make bliss. I think they're two different things. You should experience both of them. You should experience the wet. You should experience the dry. And you appreciate both of them for what they are and what they do in the relationship with each other. But there's something cosmic about the rain, and I think the Grateful Dead knows this. And I think it's a great storytelling aspect to it. What's cool about this show is that the transitions, like the Rain on Rain transition of Looks Like Rain, the Box of Rain. When you make a playlist on, what you did with tape cassettes, like a summer playlist or on Spotify, you're always thinking about a good transition. I think it speaks to their showmanship here of having these cool transitions, how they find the structure in the chaos that could be their shows, and how through this exploration that they have, they find patterns. Each song continue a wave of jam in the music. I mean, a wave of jam. Imagine surfing on like literal jam, like strawberry jam, a wave of it. It'd be cool. I mean, obviously it'd be sticky. It'd be cool though. But it'd be easier to surf on that. It's a little bit harder of a surface. Probably go slower so you can get up quick. And if you have enough movement with the jelly. Because it wouldn't be like water, it would be thicker. And you wouldn't want to eat it. You would occasionally eat it, but like, bro, everybody's swimming in that jelly too. So you're like eating some toe jam with that jam. That's gotta be gross. But you're gonna be tempted because it's like fucking jelly, right? And you're in it, you might as well like take a little taste. Not think about it. Live in the moment like Donna. Eat jelly. It's not to say like, you're gonna bring some peanut butter and then like, make clean peanut butter with like toe jam jelly. And like whatever's littering the ocean. Would we appreciate jelly if we had an ocean of jelly? It's like so much of it. Imagine if like the ocean was jelly and then somebody's like, yo, we're cooking up some jelly from the ocean, like fresh from the ocean. People like, what? Like you're eating jelly seaweed? I don't know, people sort of look at you weird. But still, can you resist the sweet, sweet taste of ocean jelly? I was at a Wilco concert in the early 2010s. It was at the Electric Factory. Around the tour of Art of Almost, I think it was that. Nels played, he was like sort of leading the show with, and he, in between songs, he experimented with a lot of noise that transitioned from song to song. Sort of the noise sort of followed the end of one song into the beginning of another song. And it had this flow. So when you're there, it feels like this full story that they're trying to tell you. And I think he gets that from the Grateful Dead. In the way that their jams last. Not I would say jams, but the first thing I think about is like a wave of jelly. Or an ocean of jelly. But a musical jam of that sort of like lives in one moment for 35 to 45 minutes, depending on like how many songs to get through and how long each song is. Particularly like, the second or third set list. Or set in a show. Sunshine is a great song. I didn't realize that. It has great moment of flow around the 3-minute mark of Sunshine. It's so fun to see them discover these moments. And it's fun to think about it. Think about if it was planned or if this is just a tonal shift that was led by someone. In particular, like somebody started or they started looking around and somebody nods that you can't see because it's audio. But around the 3-minute mark of Sunshine, there's this shift. There's this great moment. They should check out. The song, this show also made me fall in love with the song "You Ain't Woman Enough." Yo, Donna. Sounds like she sets the tone for this song. She makes this song so great. It's a Loretta Lynn song, who is a pioneering voice of country music. I think the song came out in like the mid '60s. The lyrics of the song are like so fun. They're so great, and I could see Jerry really loving to play this song, because it has this sort of Elvis-y feel. And it feels like it comes from that era. This show also has a late set Sugary. A lot of shows that I know, they like playing Sugary in the beginning. I like it in the beginning because it usually breaks up the honky tonk songs, but it's still like in the country universe. It's like a tinge of psychedelic to that song, a different chord progression than say like Mexicali or El Paso or Mississippi. Some of these like early set songs. I kind of don't like it at the end. I like it. I like it in the beginning. So I didn't love the placement of this. It's a good version of it. It's not like a standout version. It transitions into Sugar Magnolia, and I don't think the transition works either. But like, listen, it's a sugar to sugar transition, and I'm glad they tried it because that's kind of fun. Sugary to Sugar Magnolia. It sort of bookends the beginning of the set, which was a rain on rain transition. So I'm gonna do 2 shows. We talked about the Wake of the Flood doesn't come out till October. We talked about the first 2 shows. Let me know what your thoughts are on each of the show. I'll repeat them, and obviously if I got anything wrong, I'm not like an expert. I'm literally just wanted to talk about the Grateful Dead and my experience with the 73 tour. Next episode, I'm gonna go through the next 2-3 shows maybe. I won't like, yeah, we're gonna go through it. We're gonna take a deep dive, and this is the way to get into the band, is just like, let's just feel what a year was like in their shoes. And it's 50 years ago, so it's kind of like a nice little round number, and like, you should try it. Just go through, go and re-listen. I know YouTube probably has them. They're easy to get. Re-listen's what I'm using, but I don't care. Just like, let's talk next time. See where this band takes us. Alright, this is Cosmic Charlie Marks.